Okay, so let me start with a question. What if everything you thought you knew about water, well, what if it was just scratching the surface? We all know we need to hydrate, right? But what if water is doing so much more inside us, shaping our biology in ways we're maybe only just beginning to grasp?
That's a great place to start.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the extraordinary and largely unrecognized properties of water and how they fundamentally shape your health.
Yeah, it's a fascinating area.
Our mission for this deep dive really is to give you a shortcut to understanding two vital concepts: liquid crystalline water and something called Zeta Potential.
Key concepts.
Absolutely. And these aren't just, scientific curiosities. They could genuinely transform how you think about your energy levels, your body's circulation, maybe even how to prevent some of those inexplicable diseases we hear about.
Definitely potential for aha moments here.
Exactly. Get ready, because we're about to uncover some profound insights about your body's most essential element. Okay, let's unpack this first idea. We've all learned water is, solid, liquid, or gas. Simple.
Basics, yeah.
But what if there's a fourth phase? One that's largely overlooked. Our research points to this, a fascinating gel-like state. People call it exclusion zone or EZ water.
That's right. It's not just simple liquid HO in certain conditions.
So it's capable of these complex energy-storing structures within us.
It is. And what's fascinating is how it forms. You need a hydrophilic surface, something that attracts water, usually with a negative charge.
Okay, hydrophilic, water-loving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you need electromagnetic energy, particularly infrared light.
Infrared, like from the sun.
Yes, from the sun, but also just ambient heat. It's literally everywhere. Once you have those conditions, water starts to structure itself.
And it stores energy.
No, it stores that ambient energy, yeah. It acts almost like a tiny biological solar battery. It does this by assembling into many layers of these offset hexagonal sheets. The formula becomes azo, not azo.
Wow. And these sheets, they aren't microscopic, are they? I read they can get pretty big.
They can be massive, relatively speaking, up to 0.1 millimeters deep.
0.1 millimeters. What does that size mean for its function in our bodies?
Well, that size is crucial. It allows this structured water to create really substantial, stable zones within tissues.
Stable how? Like physically?
Yeah, physically. The description used is semi-solid when left alone, yet able to flow in response to an opposed shear force. Think of gelatinous egg white.
Okay, I can picture that. Resists tearing, but it can still flow.
Exactly. And that structure gives it some really surprising properties, like incredibly high conductivity. Something like 100,000 times that of regular unstructured water.
Whoa.
And importantly, this structured water, this azo, it's actually missing protons compared to azo. Its formula works out more like HOO.
Missing protons, where do they go?
They get expelled just outside this exclusion zone. So you end up with a negatively charged EZ region, and right next to it, a positively charged acidic region.
Ah, so a charge separation, like a battery.
Exactly like a battery. It's powerful enough that it's even been used to power small electronics in experiments. So water isn't just passive, it's generating this living electrical charge inside you.
That's incredible. What else does that separation do?
Well, that separating quality is really useful for water purification, for instance. But in our bodies, it's thought to help cells create that vital sodium-potassium gradient needed for life. It potentially goes way beyond what the membrane pumps alone can achieve.
Okay, so it's helping with fundamental cell function.
Right. And it also has increased viscosity and density. Interestingly, it's densest at 4 degrees Celsius.
4 degrees. I feel like I've heard that temperature before in relation to water.
You probably have. The naturalist Victor Schauberger also identified that temperature for water's greatest density and vitality, let's say.
Fascinating. And you can actually see effects of this structured water in the everyday world, can't you?
Oh, definitely.
Like surface tension on water. That thin skin that lets water striders walk on it.
That's a perfect example. That surface layer is essentially liquid crystalline water.
And the research mentioned it plays a role in phase changes too. Freezing, boiling, cloud formation.
Yes, it facilitates those transitions. And another great example is ice skating.
Ice skating? How?
Well, the pressure from the skate blade, combined with friction, creates a thin layer of this liquid crystalline water between the skate and the ice. That's what makes it slick and allows you to glide.
No way. So next time I'm wobbling on skates, I can blame the state of my liquid crystalline water layer.
Maybe, but it's definitely there, making it possible. It really does make you see common things differently.
It really does. So, okay, zooming out, what's its big structural role in the body?
It's huge. It creates that gel-like stability in our cells and tissues, basically preventing them from just leaking everywhere.
Like holding things together.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it forms this continually regenerating protective barrier for really important linings, like in our blood vessels. Protects them from wear and tear.
Okay. And lubrication.
Absolutely. It lubricates surfaces, like between tendons and fascia, allowing them to slide smoothly over each other.
So when that disappears, problems.
Big problems. Tissues start to stick together that can lead to adhesions or even conditions like arthritis.
Makes sense.
And crucially, it creates these non-compressible pockets, especially within our joints. That's essential for biomechanics, letting joints bear force and weight without getting damaged.
Non-compressible pockets.
Yeah, think of it like tiny water-based shock absorbers. And this allows the body to use what's called a tensegrity structure.
Tensegrity, like those sculptures with wires and rods.
Exactly like that. Strong, yet flexible, held together by balancing tension and compression. This structured water is key to our body's ability to maintain that kind of flexible strength, distributing forces evenly and allowing free movement.
Wow. It's incredible to think this invisible water structure is doing all that. And it's not just theoretical, right? You mentioned body workers.
Right. Many experienced body workers actually report feeling this.
Yeah.
They talk about a felt presence, a change in tissue quality that seems to correspond to this structured, gel-like state.
Amazing. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. We've got this incredible structured water, but how does fluid actually move through the tiniest pathways in our body?
Ah, microcirculation.
Yeah, especially since there's no obvious pump down there at the capillary level, and red blood cells can even be bigger than the capillaries they have to squeeze through.
Yeah.
How does that even work? It's always seemed like a bit of a mystery.
It was a long-standing mystery. Because you're right, the heart's pumping force, that hydrostatic pressure, it pretty much disappears by the time you get to the capillary bed.
So the heart isn't pushing it through there.
Not really, no.
Yeah.
But we see evidence of spontaneous circulation in some really surprising situations.
Like what?
Well, embryos show circulation before their heart even develops. Yeah. And there are observations of blood flow continuing in animals post-mortem, sometimes for minutes or even hours.
After death. Wow.
And some amphibian larvae can actually live for up to 15 days after their hearts are surgically removed.
15 days without a heart.
It's incredible. And think about plants. They have no pump, but they transport water up their xylem against gravity.
Right. Trees getting water to the top leaves.
Exactly. It strongly suggests there's another driving force for circulation, something beyond just the heart's push.
Okay, so what is it? Did the research point to an answer?
A big piece of the puzzle came from a discovery by Gerald Pollack and his team.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost accidental, apparently.
What did they find?
They found that if you take a hydrogel, which naturally contains this EZ, structured water, and immerse it in regular water, it causes spontaneous flow through a little tunnel within the hydrogel. And crucially, this flow happens without any pressure gradient.
Spontaneous flow, no pressure needed. That's a huge clue.
It was a breakthrough. The mechanism seems to be this. When that liquid crystalline, EZ water, lines the inside of a tube, it causes the water inside the tube to flow spontaneously.
Just the lining itself makes it flow?
It appears so. And what's even more wild is that if you increase infrared energy or shine UV-containing white light on it, the flow velocity shoots up.
How much?
It can increase by up to 500%.
500%. So light energy is being converted into motion.
Directly into kinetic energy, yes. Radiant energy driving fluid flow.
Okay, how? What's Pollack's theory?
His theory is that it's driven by the mutual repulsion of those positively charged protons we mentioned earlier, the ones expelled when water structures into azo.
Ah, the protons push outside the EZ layer.
Exactly. They create this positive charge density in the bulk water within the tube, and they repel each other, pushing the water along.
Is there evidence for that?
Yes. For one, the water exiting the tube has a lower pH. It's more acidic, meaning more protons.
Okay, that fits.
Also, the flow is faster in narrower tunnels. Why? Because the proton concentration would be higher in a tighter space, leading to more repulsion.
Makes sense.
And the flow is always directed towards wider cross sections. Again, consistent with protons pushing towards a less crowded area.
Okay, wow. And does this apply in our bodies? Are vessels lined appropriately?
Crucially, yes. All the fluid conduits in our body, blood vessels, lymphatics, they're lined with materials perfectly suited for creating EZ water. like the glycocalyx in blood vessels.
The glycocalyx, that fuzzy lining inside blood vessels.
That's the one. It's hydrophilic and negatively charged. Perfect conditions. So this isn't just a lab curiosity. It seems to be a fundamental physiological process.
This ties perfectly into the next concept then, right? Zeta potential.
Exactly. They're intimately linked.
So explain zeta potential in simple terms. It's an electrical charge.
Essentially, yes. Think of it as the negative electrical charge on the surface of particles suspended in a fluid, like your blood cells and plasma. This charge creates a repulsive force between the particles.
So it keeps them from sticking together.
Precisely. Keeps them separated and nicely dispersed. The analogy used in the source material was chia seeds in water.
Oh, yeah. How does that work?
Well, when chia seeds get wet, they form that hydrophilic gel around them, right? That gel is basically structured water, creating a barrier that prevents the seeds from clumping into one big mass. Zeta potential does something similar electrically for tiny particles like blood cells.
Okay, so the insight here is that good circulation isn't just the heart pumping. It also depends on this microscopic electrical charge keeping everything separate and flowing smoothly.
That's a huge part of it, especially in the microcirculation. Most biological systems are fundamentally colloidal suspensions.
Colloidal suspensions, like milk or paint.
Exactly. Tiny particles dispersed in a liquid. Our blood, our lymph, the fluid inside our cells, they're all colloids. And they rely on these mutual negative charges, this zeta potential, to keep everything dispersed and functional.
So a healthy system means strong repulsion, smooth flow.
Right. The repelling forces outweigh the attractive forces. Everything flows nicely.
Okay, so if zeta potential is that critical, what happens when it gets disrupted? When that negative charge weakens?
Well, that's when things start to go wrong. When zeta potential is disrupted, it can trigger a whole cascade of problems.
What kind of things disrupt it?
The sources detail several triggers, mainly things that introduce a high density of positive charges into the system.
Positive charges, like
Yep.
what?
Things like aluminum, which is mentioned in the context of vaccines in the source material. Also, the spike protein from COVID-19 or its vaccines is cited as having positively charged regions.
Okay.
Severe infections can do it too, or certain chronic infections known to carry positive charges, like Lyme disease spirochetes or mold components.
So these positively charged things essentially neutralize the negative zeta potential.
That's the idea. They counteract the body's natural negative charges, reducing the repulsion between particles.
Are these claims well established? How specific are the sources on mechanisms?
The sources present this as a key mechanism. For example, with the spike protein, the theory discussed is that its positively charged domains directly interact with the negatively charged glycocalyx lining blood vessels, disrupting its structure and function, leading to clumping and inflammation. The prevalence is linked to exposure levels and individual susceptibility factors, which are explored through case reports and observational data in the reference materials.
Got it. And the health consequences of this disruption, they sound pretty far-reaching.
They are. The immediate effect is the clumping of substances that should stay separate, like blood cells.
Blood cells clumping, is that what they call blood sludging?
Yes, that's one term for it. Rouleau formation is another, where red blood cells stack up like coins because they lose their repulsive charge.
Is this visible clumping or more microscopic?
It's primarily happening on a microscopic level within the vessels, but the downstream effects are significant.
Right. So this microscopic clumping leads to impaired microcirculation.
Exactly. Blood flow slows down in the smallest vessels. And that means poor delivery of oxygen and nutrients, and also poor removal of metabolic waste products.
Which could lead to bigger problems. Strokes, maybe.
Potentially, yes. The sources connect this to microstrokes, and possibly even larger strokes, especially referencing observations in the context of certain vaccine injuries mentioned.
And thickened blood. That must put a strain on the heart.
A huge strain. It makes the heart work much harder to pump the sludgier blood. This is linked potentially to arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation, that irregular heartbeat.
Interesting. So some issues we blame on high blood pressure might actually stem from this poor microcirculation.
The sources strongly suggest that the underlying issue isn't always the pressure itself, but the resistance caused by this sludged blood and impaired flow.
You know, it makes me think of traditional Chinese medicine. They have a concept of blood stasis, don't they?
They do, and the correlation is striking. Blood stasis in TCM is seen as the root of many diseases, including various types of pain, and even things like migraine headaches.
And migraines responded to restoring zeta potential in some cases mentioned.
Yes, that was noted as a potential benefit. And another consequence is poor wound healing. If you don't get good blood flow to an injury, it just won't heal properly.
Makes perfect sense.
This also helps explain why some people are just more sensitive, or why those with hypermobility might struggle more with circulation issues.
How so? The hypermobility connection.
Well, hypermobility often means weaker connective tissue, including blood vessel walls, because collagen formation is affected. So you have weaker vessels, and then if you also lose the expansive force provided by a healthy zeta potential.
The vessels could collapse more easily.
Exactly. They can become occluded or blocked. This was observed, according to the sources, in specific cases like iliac vein collapse. It's a major vein in the pelvis following COVID vaccine injuries. And it reminds me of historical attempts mentioned briefly to stent the jugular vein, a major neck vein, for conditions like MS and chronic Lyme. It hints that maybe impaired outflow and circulation were recognized as factors even back then, related perhaps to this underlying mechanism.
Okay, so you mentioned sensitive individuals. This seems like a good point to bring in EMFs, electromagnetic fields. Many sensitive people report symptoms around EMFs, headaches, fatigue.
Right, and there's data discussed in the sources that attempts to connect EMS exposure directly to this zeta potential and blood clumping issue.
What kind of data?
Well, several studies observed blood cells clumping after exposure. Not just Wi-Fi, but even wired computers, wireless phones.
Wired computers, too.
Apparently so, in one study mentioned. Another found that just 45 minutes of active cell phone use caused significant red blood cell clumping and even shape deformation.
45 minutes? That's not very long.
No. And specific polarized EMFs at 1.8 gigahertz were also shown to cause clumping. Interestingly, older individuals seemed more sensitive, which fits the idea that baseline zeta potential might decrease with age.
Is there any really direct evidence, like seeing it happen in the body?
There was one particularly striking study mentioned that used ultrasound. They placed an iPhone near the popliteal vein, the one behind the knee, for just 5 minutes. They saw significant blood clumping form in the vein on the ultrasound images within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And some of that clumping persisted even after the person got up and walked around.
That's pretty concerning. What's the proposed mechanism? How would EMFs do that?
A few mechanisms are proposed in the materials. One links back to Pollack's work, the suggestion that Wi-Fi routers might actually shrink the easy water layer. One report cited a 10-15% reduction.
Less structured water means less charge separation, maybe?
Possibly. Another idea is that EMFs generate positive ions in the air or near the body, which could then directly reduce zeta potential. This links to why negative ion therapy might be beneficial for some.
Okay.
And a third mechanism involves polarized EMFs, potentially altering the electrical potential across cell membranes, which would definitely impact zeta potential.
So it seems our bodies are constantly in this dynamic state. The sources talked about shifts between a gel state with easy water and a fluid sol state.
Exactly. It's not static. The body utilizes these rapid sol-gel shifts constantly, particularly for energy harvesting and movement.
How does that work for energy?
Think about muscle contraction. In the relaxed state, liquid crystalline water is thought to stretch the muscle proteins, sort of storing elastic energy.
Okay.
Then, to contract, the body releases calcium ions. Calcium is known to collapse zeta potential.
Disrupting the structure.
Right. It rapidly breaks apart that easy water structure within the muscle protein. This causes the stretched fibers to snap back, shortening the muscle that's the contraction.
And relaxing.
To relax, ATP is used. And intriguingly, ATP is known to restore zeta potential. So ATP helps rebuild the easy water structure, allowing the muscle proteins to stretch back out to their resting state.
So contraction and relaxation are tied to breaking and rebuilding structured water. That's a radical idea.
It is. And similar phase shifts are proposed for other rapid processes, like nerve cell firing, or how cells quickly expel or take in substances using vesicles.
Wow, and there was a mention of anesthetics too, and trauma.
Yeah, and an interesting side note was that local anesthetics seem to work, in part, by dispersing these clumped fluid states. And sometimes this fluid release is anecdotally linked to a release of stored emotional trauma, suggesting maybe these gelled fluid states are involved in how the body physically holds on to trauma.
Deep. It really does sound like science fiction sometimes.
Doesn't it? But the implications are profound.
Okay, so bringing this all back to the listener, what can you actually do with all this knowledge? This isn't just theory, right? There are practical things suggested by the sources we looked at.
Absolutely. Lots of actionable insights.
Okay, first one. Get sunlight exposure. Simple, right? Even just 10 to 20 minutes a day, especially morning sun. It's thought to directly boost structured water formation.
Your morning walk just got an upgrade.
Huh. Exactly. Second, stay hydrated. Obvious, maybe, but drink clean, high-quality water. And remember that note about 4 degrees seawater having the highest density of structured water. Maybe cool water is best.
And monitor your hydration. Check your urine color. Clear or pale yellow is good.
Right. Basic but crucial. Third, move your body. Gentle exercise like walking is key. It helps maintain blood flow, support Zeta Potential, especially it seems after potential EMF exposure.
Keep things moving.
Fourth, reduce EMF exposure where you can. Limit time right next to Wi-Fi routers, cell phones, maybe turn off Wi-Fi at night. Give your cellular water a chance to structure optimally.
Sensible precautions.
Fifth, ground yourself. Earthing. Walk barefoot on grass, soil, even sand if you're near a beach. It exposes you to the Earth's natural negative ions, which can help improve Zeta Potential.
Connecting back to the Earth charge.
Sixth, eat water-rich foods. This is a big one. Fruits and vegetables aren't just vitamins. They're packed with water, often 75-94%, and it's likely already structured water from the plant.
Eating your water.
Yeah. And remember that commenter mentioned in the source. Horrible migraines for 30 years, gone after changing their diet to reduce fat and load up on fruits and vegetables.
That's a powerful anecdote. Really highlights the potential impact.
It really is. And finally, avoid toxins, especially things known to disrupt Zeta Potential, like limiting exposure to aluminum and other positively charged substances where possible.
And the sources also mentioned therapies like DMSO or negative ion generators as potential support, but definitely advise consulting a knowledgeable holistic practitioner before trying those.
Good advice. So, thinking broadly now, the implications are pretty vast, aren't they?
They really are. So many mysterious chronic illnesses. We're talking migraines, chronic fatigue, maybe EMF sensitivity, the issues seen with hypermobility, even potentially aspects of autism and ADHD.
ADHD and autism, how does that connect?
Well, there was that commenter's theory mentioned in the source material, suggesting that maybe the excessive movement sometimes seen in these individuals isn't just behavioral, but could be a subconscious physiological drive to improve circulation. A way to manually overcome poor flow linked to low structured water or Zeta Potential.
Wow, a kind of self-medication through movement. That's a fascinating thought.
It is, and ultimately the sources frame the loss of this liquid crystalline water, this EZ water, and the decline in Zeta Potential as one of the fundamental degenerative processes underlying aging itself.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, the core message seems crystal clear. Water isn't just wet stuff. It's not passive.
Not at all. It's hidden structures, it's electrical properties. They are absolutely fundamental to our health, our energy, our vitality.
And by supporting these natural processes, simple things, sunlight, movement, clean food, and water, while minimizing the things that disrupt them, like toxins and maybe excessive EMFs.
You can potentially make a significant difference. Improve energy, reduce pain, maybe even prevent disease down the line. It's about working with our body's most basic yet most profound element.
It really makes you wonder, if something as fundamental as ever-present as water holds such deep, often overlooked secrets to our vitality, well, what other basic elements of our daily lives might be quietly shaping our health in ways we just haven't fully appreciated yet?
That's the question, isn't it?
Maybe it's time to start looking at our bodies, our environment, through this new lens. Perhaps try one or two of these simple practices we talked about today and just observe.